What is going on, fam? Here we are, Conspiracy Couch, late night, midnight, Saturday night edition. Just perfect for the craft, right? Couldn't be a better time and day. This is fantastic, right? What's going on, classical chick? Neo, good to see ya. I see you out there, Luke, lurking Luke. Disco Daphne, what's going on? Crystal Stuck, Artist 61. Wonder Mod, good to see you. Paula Russo, Truth and Quest, Aaron, good to see ya. Had a great time on your show last night. That was fun. What's going on, Belushi? Payne. I saw a ship come in too. Who dropped the ship?
Kanga.
Kanga.
Thanks,
Non. Thank
friend.
you, Kanga Non. Appreciate that so much. Son of a green card. What's going on, fam? Amethyst Cat. Here we are, man. The craft, right?
Here we are.
Let's do this, right? Should I get to start burning stuff or what? No, I'm not going to do all that. I thought about it, though. You know?
Oh, there's so much here, guys. There's so much here. This is probably going to end up being a multi-part couch because, good Lord, how many varieties of witchcraft? You got hoodoo, voodoo, you got shamanism, you got Wicca, you got Enochian, you got Kabbalah, you got Demonology.
Right? There's just Kabbalah alone. Just any one of those alone could be its own show.
You could spend hours and hours talking about. So we had to kind of whittle it down a bit. We're going
to do this in probably like a 3-part series to cover all, as much magical stuff as we can cover. But in this particular episode, we're going Hebrew, Kabbalah.
Hebrew? I like the Hebrews.
Hebrew, right. Either way, that works. Wicca and Demonology. So, and even that is, even taking on those three is there's a lot. So, yeah. So let's ask them out in the chat. So when you guys think of magic, what do you think of? I'm curious to see your responses.
There's so many ways you could take that. What's the first thing that pops into your head when you think of, magic or witchcraft? We're not talking about like card tricks, clearly.
Right. I'm interested to see what they say as far as what what comes to mind when somebody says the craft or witchcraft. What is it that you think of? Don't tell me a bunch of girls in ripped up fishnets with
getting sawed in half.
Right? No, please don't.
Right. I mean, you can really go. Magic, real magic, really goes one of two ways. You're either talking about nature magic, right, where you're trying to manipulate the forces or the forces and the powers of the earth, or sometimes the cosmos, something along those lines, or you're talking about some sort of a spiritualism where you're calling in another intelligent entity. I mean, from ancestor magic and ancestor worship to like I said, demonology, which is different than demonology. Demonology is the study of demons. Demonolatry is the worship and use of demons for things. So, I mean, you're either talking about nature magic or you're talking about dealing with some other sort of intelligent entity that you are calling in and asking to
I'm looking at some of the
perform
comments.
Actions for you.
I'm looking at some of the comments in the chat, and generally speaking, it's, we're getting dark arts, evil. It tends to have a dark connotation, I think. And, most people are saying this sort of same thing.
Most of the time.
We got unicorns, PDX coming in with Merlin, spelling, Wicca, service to self, Aleister Crowley, intention, alchemy. Ooh, I like that answer, alchemy. So, we're going to be going into alchemy in another one of the craft episodes because alchemy is a very important part of it. Yes, indeed. Let's see, what else do we have here? Some type of hypnosis, spells and manipulation. Crystal says there is white or black magic. So, yeah, interesting. But it generally has a very dark, association. So should we play this first video by the guru? I think it's an
Sadhguru,
interesting
yeah.
introduction
I
to the topic
like,
of magic. Mm-hmm.
right. I like the idea, people, if you ask a practitioner, they will tell you that there's light and dark magic, right? That it's all based on the intent of the practitioner. So I like that. But yeah, by all means, Sadhguru it up.
I love this guy. He's great. We should watch
Yeah.
him more often.
Mukherjee, and he says, I want to know the truth of black magic. My non-Bengali friends believe black magic has come into existence from West Bengal. How much truth is there in this?
It's a very Bengali question. The truth they're not asking how much truth in the black magic, they're asking whether it came from West Bengal or not. Well, Kerala
Thank
people
you,
believe
J-Bell,
it
for the
came from
cookie.
Kerala. It's little fishy, both the populations. Lot of fish in them, you know. So, at one time in this country, as you have a family doctor, they used to have a witch doctor. Almost every family had somebody to consult on these kind of aspects, because these arts were so widespread. Did it originate in Bengal? Did it originate in Kerala? No, I think it survived more in Kerala and Bengal today. In other places, it's gotten a little wiped out. Essentially, what you're talking about is occult. Occult is a certain technology that you can use your energies to create certain impact. But unfortunately, it's gotten very negative press because market was for the negative. So people used it more negatively than positively. It could also be used positively. It's like any other technology, you can either use it positively or negatively. Unfortunately, the negative usage became overwhelmingly larger than the positive usage. So people think occult means it's a negative. No, the usage has become unfortunately negative. It could also be used in a positive manner. When I say it could also be used in a positive manner, you can transform life with it. You could help people out of their health situations, out of their psychological situations, various things could be done. Instead of that, because the market is mainly for the negative, because of that it's gotten a negative image. Occult is like this. See, right now, all of you have a phone. Suppose you had a phone 100 years ago, cell phone 100 years ago, you could claim you have occult powers, because you could just take this and speak to somebody in America, everybody woo, they will shiver, okay? Yes or no? So, occult is just technology. You could communicate, you could use your energies to communicate with somebody. But as modern technology becomes more and more subtle, the need for occult is receding quite a bit, because so many things that we used to do in occult today can be delivered. You can send a WhatsApp message, you don't have to sit there focusing to send a message to somebody anymore. It took a lot more energy and time to do that. Now, message goes. So, messaging business has completely fallen out of occult. Otherwise, occult was mainly used to deliver messages to people in a different way. You have heard of telepathy and not telecommunication, telekinetics and various other things where things were done from a distance. But today all those things are being done by regular technology, so occult or the requirement for occult is withdrawing. The need is just going away and probably most of it will go away. There are a few things that one could do, but above all, if we created a society that whatever is given to you, you will use it in a positive way, occult can be a tremendous possibility, as technology can be tremendous possibility. As I mentioned earlier, most of the technology is used for developing arms and armaments and bombs and nuclear bombs and more destructive things. The same thing could have been used for something else. Absolutely. Positive things could have been done, but that's not been done because the market is for the negative. Similarly, the same things have happened to occult. Your Mukherjee friend, well, I think from what I hear, I think Kerala tops in the occult practices even today. Next comes West Bengal. Next, probably some northeastern states have this, but they're very rudimentary occult. Kerala occult is quite sophisticated. You will see a lot of occult in North America, in the North American tribes, but very basic, mainly messaging occult. But now they all have smartphones, so it's all going out. I think Kashmir at one time had a lot of occult. Bengal, Kerala, Northeast, well, some parts of Andhra Pradesh and Orissa, but now market is done.
Yeah, thank you, Jay Bell and Anka Vanka, for the cookies. Really appreciate it, you guys. And Jay Bell just made a comment, literally technology with a physical manifestation versus a spiritual manifestation. Bingo. Right there.
Right. I think he was just trying to get across the point that, like, back in the day, people used to try and manipulate, you know, to send messages over a distance by manipulating energies. Now they don't have to. Everything is done for them. And also, you know, the Sadhguru, I've seen comments both ways on this guy. You know, he's speaking from a different point of view than us. You know, in the West, we tend to look at things through, whether we want to or not, through a, you know, a real Judeo-Christian lens on witchcraft. And I see, like, Neo saying she doesn't trust its source. I also, you know, I just said that to somebody else in the chat. I tend, obviously, you guys hear me talk about this all the time, I tend not to trust it. Anytime you have to open yourself up to something like that, especially the spiritualist element, or where you're trying to ask another intelligent entity to help you with something or do something for you, or to you know, to act on your behalf, or any of that, like, that has the potential to go real bad, go south real fast, you know.
Yes, indeed. So from here, kind of want to jump into the topic of Wicca. So, you know, I guess we could go ahead and start here.
Yeah, Wicca's interesting. I mean, that's
Wicca,
literally the fastest growing religion in the world, you know, and it's crazy because it's not that old. I mean, it's drawn on, Wicca proper is drawn from Druidic and Celtic practices, and it's incorporated a lot of nature, you know, nature elements and spiritual elements, but it's a fairly new religion. I mean, it's, you know, constructed in the 1900s, as a matter of fact. I don't know what video are you?
I was going to play Religion for Breakfast, but I might play that gal first, because this is kind of a longer video, this guy's. And it really goes into good explanation, but it's longer. And because we've got so many different topics to cover, I think I'll start with that gal's definition that you sent me. We'll start with her. All right.
Witchcraft is the pre-Christian indigenous tradition of the British Isles, and also the Celtic countries, which included Ireland and France and a little bit of Germany. The Celts were all over the place. Italy, northern Italy. It is a religion because it's practiced by a community of people. It's a spiritual path that's very personal because it's practiced by each person on their own. It's a personal spiritual practice. Witchcraft is about taking off the blindfold to see the sacred in the world, in the natural world, in other people and in yourselves. It's a way of discovering the presence of the divine and of making magic with it. It's ancient. It was brutally persecuted, which began in the 1400s with a lot of distortions. including the false accusation that witches worshipped Satan, which they do not. Satan is a strictly, entirely, utterly biblical character. He is the property of the Abrahamic faiths. He's their personification of evil. And witchcraft has no Satan. It has a very different idea about evil, because for us, the divine is expressed in the natural world, and you don't find evil in the natural world. If you're walking through the jungle and a tiger eats you for lunch, it's a tragedy for you and your family, but it doesn't make the tiger evil. It makes him a tiger. And so witchcraft becomes, especially in modern times, it's a way of bringing us back into contact with the wisdom of our ancestors, because it is an ancestral wisdom tradition. And it brings us back into contact with the natural world as an embodiment of the divine. It's a way of bringing ourselves into harmony with the natural world, with the cycles of the seasons, with the cycles of the moon, which are particularly meaningful for women, because our bodies literally correspond to the 28-day cycle. And our ages as a young woman, as a mother, and as a crone, an older woman, correspond to the phases of the moon. The new moon, the full moon, and the waning moon. So within nature is a treasure trove of spiritual wisdom, and witchcraft is one of the rediscovered paths to being in relationship with the natural world as a spiritual teacher.
I don't know about you, but I grew up thinking, witches were, just like most people do. You think that they're, but it's really not true. That's not really what they are, and that's not really what Wicca's
that they're
about.
cooking up like toads and
right.
hanging over a cauldron and whatever, trying to steal souls and whatnot. I mean, there is that element to it, don't get me wrong, but a lot of these people that call themselves Wiccans practice this nature magic, and they truly believe that it's, that the power of their actions is going to be based on the intent that they set behind it,
Right.
Obviously, as a Christian, not my bag, but I understand. I mean, what experiences do you have with witchcraft or Wicca? Are you
talking to me?
Well, yeah, you. No, I'm talking to the other you. Your dog.
Why am I getting asked that?
Why not?
Since I woke up, I try to educate myself. This is why we do shows like this. I try to educate myself on everything, and I try to let go of any preconceived notions I had about literally anything before my awakening. So I try to stay open-minded, and like I kind of talk about all the time, you guys know religions is my jam. Religions, philosophy, like I'm into all kinds of stuff, but ancient civilizations and but I study it all, you know what I mean? Like when I started getting into studying religions, like you guys know, The Law of One is my jam. Like I've read that book over. I study that book like constantly. But I've I have Urantia, and I have the Gita, and I have, like, I could go on and on. Like I've got the Nag Hammadi and the Bible. Like I literally study like everything I can get my hands on. So of course I've studied Wicca too. I mean, I have a little bit of an understanding of it, enough to know that it's not what I was brought up to believe it was.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not to be confused with Satanism.
True. Maxidon says there are ancient things embedded into Wicca that even the most well-meaning witch has no idea that they're conjuring or empowering, unfortunately. And I tend to agree with that. Like, when you're dealing with primal forces of whatever sort, thinking
Thank you,
that
son
you
of a green
are
card, for the 2,000 gold pills. Appreciate that.
Aw, thanks. Thinking that you are powerful enough to either you're either serving as a conduit for these things, right? Which means you've just opened yourself up and added your energy, or giving your energy, to this combination of primal forces, this is all bad. Because like she said, even the most well-meaning person, I just was saying to Thumper Rose, like, hey, when you're practicing these things, she said that her grandmother had practiced and never had an evil thought. Well, it's extremely important for these people that they try to stay in control of their thoughts and emotions at all times, because, if you lose control of those things and you're dealing with these sorts of energies, I mean, things could go left quick.
Well, that gentleman, when we go into the Kabbalah, there's a gentleman that speaks on this exact topic, that you can't touch that if you don't have pure intent and kind of a pure soul. It could be very dangerous for you. You know what I mean? So when you ask me the question of, yes, I've studied it. I've studied all this stuff, but have I ever practiced magic? No. You know what I mean? It's just something intuitively inside of me tells me, just don't go there. Like, you don't need to be doing all that, right? So just to quote Foyle, you don't need to be doing all that. So, you guys know my answer. I seek the creator. You know what I mean? Like, I have my own thing. I seek the creator, and I listen to my intuition, and I listen to my guides, and I follow that. Like, I don't let anybody sort of tell me what box I got to fit into. I don't fit into boxes, clearly. And I'm okay with that.
Well, I had horrible experiences with it. I mean, you become a gateway. This is kind of how I got that attachment. Like,
were you practicing witchcraft?
I was doing something. No, I not in any kind of a formal sense, but I was talking to the dead. I did not, I mean, when I was younger, I told you that thing had been with me for so long that it didn't even register to me that it was there anymore. Right. But when I initially opened that door, I was talking to the dead, trying to understand what I was seeing around me, what was going on around me. I had that problem as a kid. I didn't really understand it. I didn't understand what was going on. I was looking for answers in all the wrong places.
So you were seeing ghosts and stuff as a kid, and you started messing with the Ouija board and talking to spirits without spiritual protection, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all bad right there. As a sleeper too, as an unconscious sort of being at that stage of your life. Right?
I had no idea.
I didn't realize what a danger I was to myself when I was a sleeper. Like and I have a very limited understanding of spiritual topics at this point in my life. But what limited understanding I do have,
Thanks,
I understand what a danger I was to myself when I was a sleeper, with the decisions I made and the energies I allowed to be around me, and the things I gave my energy to unknowingly, all bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you become the gateway, you become the conduit, you become the portal. This can be a very, very dangerous thing, and I see, some people like mentioning, like, we're not talking about like herbalists or people that do like traditional healing per se, using like herbs and things from the earth. Like, that's herbalism or Ayurveda or whatever. That's not necessarily witchcraft. We're talking about people that intentionally set out to manipulate energies via certain acquired conduits. When they cast spells, we're talking people, when you cast a spell, right? Like, some people practice candle magic, right? The candle isn't magic. Okay. Right. The candle, the colored candles, like, when I was in New Orleans, I worked at a voodoo shop. I worked at Reverend Zombie's. As a matter of fact, I worked at the attached cigar shop, but the guy owned Reverend Zombie's.
Something just rolled up on me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but something just rolled up on me right now to my left.
I wondered.
And it's not
I wondered.
It's
how this discussion would go.
Yeah.
We'll clear it out. We'll deal with it. It's all right.
Your house is a trip,
I told
dude.
you about.
I was never around. Man. Like, I have weird, sort of ET experiences, but I don't normally have like ghosts roll up on me. Like, it's weird.
Tell it to leave.
It's a very different. What did they do wrong? I can just feel it. But I'm not, but it's not bothering me. It's not yelling stuff at
well,
me. It's not
then,
telling me the light is a lie. Like, why can't it be here? It's cool.
if it's that guy,
I'm cool with
definitely
you.
totally.
I can't see you, but I'm cool. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
you're always sharing space. Like,
just
we've had
don't
this
yell at
discussion,
me.
especially about being here. And I told them, I told the one, for those of you that don't know what the hell we're talking about, my house is haunted, right? I've had to have people come in, like it's a whole thing. And I told the ones, like, if you're just chilling here and you're cool and it's just a matter of sharing space, like I'm way past that. Like, I've been dealing with that forever. I know it can be weird to somebody if it's kind of a new experience, but if they're just chilling, like, there ain't many places in the world where you're not sharing space with energy. So this is why
negative.
no, and you can tell, this is why when dealing with magic, especially the kind where you're calling on other intelligent entities to do, what you think is your bidding, that's why it gets real dangerous, because you're 9 times out, you're always sharing space with these things. They're everywhere.
Well, that's why I was going into and we're going to go into this, like, especially, we're going to go into and try to kind of define what is witchcraft and what is magic, because, you ask some people and they think if you read tarot cards or you have crystals, you're a witch, basically. And then, it just depends on who you ask, what their definition of witchcraft is, or or even what witchcraft is in and of itself. So to you, Foil, before we continue down this rabbit hole of the topic, what do you define as witchcraft when you start casting spells and calling on entities that are not human, third dimensional ones like us?
Energy manipulation.
Energy manipulation.
But
define that further.
Well, like I said, you're either like I said,
if I put white light shields around me, that's energy manipulation. So is that magic?
To an extent, almost. Yeah, magic. I don't know that I would I mean, obviously now I try to stick to what is in the Bible. Like, if I will put balls of protection around me, balls of light of protection around me, but
that's magic.
I talk to the Lord about that. Please give me your light as my protection.
I do the same
I'm not
thing.
calling on rando spirits for that. And I'm not trying to take it from the earth. I'm asking the Lord God to wrap me in his light of protection. So, I mean, technically, would that be what we would, consider linguistically magic? Like, yeah, probably. But it's where I'm drawing from, in my opinion. Now, I know I'll probably get some pushback on that, but in my opinion, that is how I look at it. Send,
ultimately,
I will ask for the Lord to send an angel of protection to wrap its wings around me and protect me. Like, I will ask for that, but I ask the Lord for that, and only the Lord. I don't talk to randos anymore. I learned my lesson on that.
So ultimately, the conclusion I've already reached is that we're all practicing it, whether we realize it or not. It's just the source from which we're drawing upon and who we're calling. That's it. But we're all doing that. People that have any spiritual practices or protection practices or whatever, I mean, essentially, that's what they're doing. Right? It's
Max says, yes, that's the Holy Spirit, and that's the truth. To me, it is magic, and it's not wrong. Yeah, well, I mean, because we've talked about that. I was raised Catholic, and I still, to this day, believe in a triune God. There's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's 3 faces of one entity. Right. And it's the Holy Spirit that comes into you, that gives you the feeling of God. It's the Holy Spirit that brings you the breath of God. It's the Holy Spirit that does all of these things. Jesus was the Son, and God is the Father. Like, I will talk to those 3 things, and then I keep it at that.
Okay. So,
but I mean, there's a lot of people that even look at the Catholic Mass as being like magical. Like, I mean, we can even make this argument, right?
Foil, you just said I talk to God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
Those are the 3 entities.
But it's all the same thing.
To. Correct. But you, for various reasons, you'll call upon whichever one, right? So when other people have the definition of great spirit, which is the same thing. It's the same idea as the Holy Spirit. It's the same thing. It's just a different wording. It's a different interpretation of the same thing, right? So when someone else is calling upon, Great Spirit, or, aren't they essentially doing the same thing you're doing? It's just different wording. Do we not think the dimensions beyond understand our difference in wording and our filter, but that we're calling on the same thing? So again, does that not come down to intent? Ultimately, we don't even speak the same language. Not all of us speak the same language on this planet. We were raised in different cultures with different ideas of what our creator is. And I mean,
I completely follow you.
Okay.
And I completely understand what you're saying. However, for me, because I had to learn the hard way, like, I try not to I don't even let myself go there. Like, now it's like Jesus or bust, man. That is
we're just having hold on. We're just having a conversation about the topic.
No, I know.
You don't allow yourself to go where? To what? Understand other people. Like, all we're doing now is understanding other people's perspectives.
But I don't like. Okay. Do I think, like, okay, so would you say that the Gaia spirit, right, is an extension of the creator? You personally, would you say that? Like, the guy, like, I'm just trying to find a simple example that we can have a discussion on.
I think all of creation is one, and it's all part of God. It's all part of our creator. So, I mean,
I wouldn't ever call on the Gaia spirit, because I don't know personally exactly how that's going to work out. It's not that I don't judge anything. Hey, listen, judgment is above my pay grade.
What would you call on?
We talk about this all the time.
The only thing I ever do when I talk to the planet itself is send love to her. That's all. I send her love, and she sends it back, and that's it. But I wouldn't call upon her for anything.
See, I would just say, God, the planet, thank you, God, thank you, Jesus, for this creation. I'm not going to talk. Me personally, I'm probably not going to talk to it directly. That's just me, though. Yeah.
J-Bell says she has so much to say, but it's hard to explain through messages. We're going to open up the calls here shortly, J-Bell, if you want to call in.
I see a couple of you. I know.
And you got something to add to this conversation, right? Because this is a good conversation. And this is why I like doing shows with you, Foil, because you're not one of those people that we see things very differently, but we can have these back and forth sort of discussions that I think spark further discussions that need to be done, that people need to have. Without getting in our feelings with each other. That's one of the beautiful dynamics about a relationship.
I don't do any kind of judgment or condemnation like that. Like, hey, that is specifically not my job, right?
I say things the only reason I want to hear your response, because you're very intelligent, and I want to hear your thought process. Like I'm trying to draw out your thought process because I'm trying to track it. You know what I mean? And trying to get you to.
I'm rocking with you.
Mine too.
I mean, I feel it. Yes, J-Bell, we are going to do call-ins for sure.
All right, we should jump into Kabbalah here, because we're never going to get through all this stuff and open up calls if we don't. I think we should, you want to jump from here into Kabbalah, because there's kind of a lot to unpack in the Kabbalah topic. And I think it's really important for people to understand where this all stems from, right? So
I mean, even
magic
Kabbalah,
in ancient Israel. Go ahead.
Even Kabbalah has ties to, clearly, it's Jewish mysticism, so it's based kind of in the Abrahamic traditions, which kind of aligns with the Judeo-Christian worldview that most Westerners have. I mean, even down to the Sephiroth, the emanations of God. Right. How they view things, and then the attempt to manipulate those energies. It's crazy stuff. Yeah,
it seems like these human beings, darn it, they've been manipulating energies all over this planet for all of time, man. Right? Seems like it's just sort of inevitable, right?
Well, just as a side note, one of my degrees is in anthropology, and I was very interested in the origins of religion, like the anthropological explanation for the origins of religion. Do you know how we know when ideas beyond our physical existence originated per the archaeological record? Because people started burying people. When they started burying people,
Yes,
we knew
right.
that they had some sort of concept beyond this plane. And this is where we find a lot. And I mean, back to the first burials, back to showing respect for the dead in a very ritualistic way, even if it was just burying them with certain flowers, right? So we knew that there was some conception of something beyond this plane. And from that, you know, and at the time, maybe, you know, obviously we think we know so much more because we have all this science that explains things and we're getting to the nitty gritty of things, you know, but even before all that, when they couldn't explain, I mean, many of them turned to, you know, their first explanation was nature, was the earth. This is where, you know, the origins of nature magic, and then ancestor worship came in. I mean, these are very, very old things. And Jewish mysticism, even though we only have a couple of thousand years of records on it, also draws from these earlier traditions and then incorporates it in with the Abrahamic traditions, which is extremely interesting. That's my little
Tamgur said, is Gaia an actual spirit or entity, or is it an idea? So Gaia is a conscious being. All that, when you look up at the stars at night, all this, everything that you see it's conscious. Everything has consciousness. So yeah, she's a female. She has a female energy, and she's a conscious being. And I was completely unaware of anything like, you know, if you guys would have talked to me before I woke up, I didn't know any of this stuff. And the things that I even sort of, like, when I say that she's a conscious being, or I make statements like that, or that the stars will talk to you because this happened to me. And it only happened for, like, I don't know, it was like 6 or 8 months of my life, but for like 6 or 8 months, this is how I got my channel name. Like, I could see it. All of a sudden I was like, oh, everything's conscious and it's alive and it's connected. I could see it. Like I was on, you know, it's like people describe on mushroom trips or something. So this happened to me sober, right? And I just could, nobody told me this stuff. I could just perceive it all of a sudden. I was like, oh, everything's alive and it's conscious. And that's why I felt super bad and didn't want to hurt things and became a vegan, and because I wanted everything to, it wasn't about, oh, I think that this is wrong or I'm better than you. It was about, I wanted that being to have its experience, and I didn't want to be the one to take its experience from it, whatever experience that it was here to have. So, and you know, I wish I still had that. But anyway, so Gaia, so I've experienced this and I've meditated a lot, and I know it sounds crazy and that's fine, but I've talked to the stars and the planet and, you know, even the sun. I've talked to, you know, and I for a while I was on this level where I could just, that's all I wanted to do, really. I didn't want to talk to people. Luckily for my sake, because I still have to function in this reality and this level of the game, I've come back to Earth rather abruptly. But yeah, so I guess when I speak about those kind of things and the interconnectedness of creation, it's because I've experienced it. It was just amazing. I'm sure other people out there have too, and it's really life altering when that you have that experience. So okay, so magic in ancient Israel thank you, J Bell, for the shit. Really appreciate that. I might have to try another time or on after. Love this conversation, girls, and love y'all. Thank you, J Bell. Appreciate it very much. So should we go into some ancient Israel and the Hebrew Bible with the magic stuff? Go into that first and then jump into that guy that's talking about Kabbalah, because that video is fascinating. Yeah. But right. I want to give us like a basic background. Maybe where the stems
depending
from.
On how long they are, we can save the whole demonology thing for next time, right? If you want, just because I know a lot of people want to get in on this convo. But yeah, by all means.
So I absolutely love this guy's channel, guys. Like, you want to talk about Alara's like a big, I'm a big fan of this dude. Yeah. Like huge.
This
like
dude is awesome.
I love this dude's channel. So if you're into esoteric stuff and religion and philosophy, all that kind of stuff, you will love this guy's channel, Esoterica. Go and subscribe. He's incredible. So on that note,
scholarly.
We're gonna listen to Justin for a minute. Here we go.
Yes, woke, the sun is Irish, apparently.
Perhaps most interesting about ancient Israelite magical practices is just how little it is attested in either the archaeological data or in the literary record. Unlike in other nearby societies in which magic seems ubiquitous and well attested at various historical registers, ancient Israel remains somewhat mysterious on this issue. What might explain this? One answer is that the ancient Israelites simply didn't practice magic and therefore very little evidence of it survives. This strikes me as extremely unlikely for reasons that I'll mention in a moment. The second possibility is that ancient Israel is just such a small society that very little archaeological remains of these kinds will be found at all. It's a bit of a numbers game. Small societies produce smaller archaeological footprints, and therefore we simply have much less data. This seems more plausible, though some archaeological evidence of magic has presented itself. We'll explore that in a moment. The third possibility is that magic was widespread in ancient Israel, but the information has been somehow suppressed. This may be possible given something like the Inquisition of King Josiah, in which political and theological control were centralized in Jerusalem, and all other shrines or worship were forbidden. We see evidence of one of these shrines being destroyed at Tel Arad, which has luckily survived in the archaeological record. Though such suppression and censorship would require a relatively high level of bureaucratic and centralized control, and one wonders to what degree ancient Israel ever achieved such control and power. At the Register of Material Culture, very little evidence of magic survives from ancient Israel. Perhaps the most important survivals are two very small silver scrolls that were found placed into tombs at Ketef Hinnom, and date just prior to the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BCE. These scrolls bear a Paleo-Hebrew inscription that is remarkably similar to text found in the Hebrew Bible, especially the priestly benediction found at number 6. Similar kinds of amulets have also been found in the Eastern Mediterranean, such as those used by the Phoenicians, and it is likely that the repetitious use of the language of to guard or to protect in these scrolls represents their use as a kind of amulet to protect the dead, either from grave robbers or from some kind of malevolent supernatural entities. It should also be noted that such supernatural entities seem conspicuously missing in ancient Israelite mythology, despite being widely attested both in ancient Egypt, ancient Canaan, and ancient Mesopotamia. The absence of such supernatural entities may also be an indicator or a clue as to why we actually have so few of these amulets to survive. If you don't have much in the way of demons, then you don't need much in the way of amulets. Just two further points on these tiny scroll amulets. The first is, you'll notice I defined magic as prohibited supernatural activity earlier, and it's reasonable to ask whether or not such amulets would have been prohibited. And the answer is, I don't know. The use of such amulets is never strictly forbidden in any ancient Israelite text that I know of, including the Hebrew Bible. However, these scrolls do use the divine name, Yod He Vav He, and if the priestly concerns around cleanliness and uncleanliness that dominate the Hebrew Bible matter, there is certainly nothing more ritually unclean in the ancient Near East, and specifically in Israelite society, than corpse uncleanliness. The use of the divine name, which is often thought to have tremendous sacred power, that one could place the holy divine name in a place precisely marked by extreme ritual uncleanliness, seems at least unorthodox. So I can doubt that the ritual practitioners or the priests of ancient Israel would have given enthusiastic consent of the idea of placing the divine name in a place like a tomb. Though, with so little evidence, I have to admit I'm engaging in some degree of, I hope, at least educated, but nevertheless still conjecture. A second point that strikes me as somewhat interesting about these two scrolls is that it may be possible that the earliest sections recovered of the Hebrew Bible may have been recovered on protective amulets which the writers of the Hebrew Bible may themselves have forbidden. There's something ironic and hilarious to me about the prospect that the earliest recoverable texts of the Hebrew Bible may have been written in such a way as to have been forbidden by the very people who wrote the Bible in the first place. I think here of Benjamin's angel of history, just mounting the piling wreckage upon wreckage, without any regard to what should be or what should not have been, much less what was allowed and what was forbidden. Benjamin's angel of history simply doesn't care for progress or ethics, and it shouldn't be surprising that the quote-unquote Bible should be recovered in a form that the Bible itself would have forbidden. And there's something about that that gives me a touch of glee. And it is to the Bible that we must turn now. Though I'd like to issue a disclaimer about just what I mean when I say the quote-unquote Bible. It's important to realize that what we have as the Bible is less a unified text and more of something like an ancient Israelite library that has gone through various, often contradictory processes of curation by various editors at various times with various agendas. So saying something like, the Bible says X, is a bit like saying, well, the library says X. Of course it does. Libraries say all kinds of things, because libraries are full of various kinds of books on various types of subjects written by various kinds of people at various kinds of times with varying kinds of agendas. So it's important when we study the Bible or quote from the Bible that we're giving the best contextualization we can. And I hope I can achieve that as we begin to turn to some of these rather infamous texts from the Hebrew Bible. And of course, this is especially...
Okay, so we'll move on from here we'll kind of jump into Kabbalah. I just wanted to sort of kind of cover the fact that a lot of this stuff is, you wouldn't think of magic as going on, with the Israelites, but very much so. It's just been sort of hidden.
Man, well, I mean, even in the Bible, I mean, there are numerous references, like when they're sacrificing to Baal or Moloch, that's magic. When they're worshiping idols, this is magic. As far as my understanding goes. So, in any case.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Foyle. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Tonya Vralman coming in with the super chat. So glad you girls are here. We're so glad you're here. Thank you so much for the support.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate it. And I'm really loving a lot of the comments in the chat tonight and the energy in here. People are really just kind of engaging, and a lot of the thoughts I'm seeing in here are very intelligent, and it's just good. I like what I'm seeing in here tonight. It's awesome. So this is a fascinating video. Now, somebody sent this to me in Telegram, and I did not catch their name, but this video really kind of explains some stuff about Kabbalah that I think is sort of fascinating. This is like kind of a little bit of a crash course as to what you're dealing with, and then we'll kind of go into the topic a little bit more. So this is fascinating, though, for sure. I thought this video was great.
To be a Kabbalist, you have to be more than Chassid. We're not even Am yet. You understand?
I understand.
So that's the reality. I'll give you an understanding of, like, it's not just Kabbalah. It's like the wisdom of the sages is beyond our comprehension. So to give you small understanding, there is a Ma'aril Diskin, story about Ma'aril Diskin. It's a major tzaddik, huge chacham, but not regular wisdom. Like, we think chacham is like someone that maybe remembers a few books by heart, or someone that speaks a bunch of languages. That's what we think is a chacham. The Ma'aril Diskin was known as someone that can look at a tree, and within a few moments, he knows exactly how many leaves are on the tree.
Amazing.
So some people didn't believe it. So one time a student asked the Rabbi, how many leaves are on this tree? And the rabbi looked at the tree and he gave him some big number. So then the rabbi left, and the students were talking amongst each other like, yeah, but how do we know he's right? Like, he just said a big number. Like, we didn't actually count the leaves. How do we know he's right? So one of the students was clever. He's like, okay, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off 10 leaves. I mean, there's 50,000 leaves here, he said. He has 47,812 leaves. I'm going to take off 10 leaves. I'm going to take off 5 leaves. Let's see if he gives us the same number again. So they took off the leaves. The rabbi came back a little later. Like, oh, Rabbi, can you remind me, how many leaves are on this tree? He goes, oh, it's the same number I gave you before, minus 10.
Amazing. Wow. Wow.
You understand? So that is Chokhmat Chazal. That is a wisdom that's, to us, beyond nature. Beyond nature. So when you talk about Kabbalah and people that deal with Kabbalah, these are people that are not just smart. These are people that they can change nature. They do things that are unnatural. I have a friend who's an Avrech with the same kollel as Rav Ephraim. He doesn't do it often, but he knows a little bit of Kabbalah. He's able to bend metal with his mind. Like, you take a spoon, you look at the spoon would bend. But you only show it to people that know him really well, that he studies with them all day. He doesn't go and, a circus show. Now, he doesn't do it in front of people because even though he can make money off of it or this, that's not for that. People that really know Kabbalah, which there's very, very few, they don't deal with it for that. They do things to show the power of Hashem. It has nothing to do with them. They're humble people, they're pure people. So all of these people that are running this multi-billion-dollar operation, Kabbalah Center, or selling the books, first of all, a lot of them are not even Jewish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of them are not even Jewish. Bechlal, nothing. They're not even Jewish. Then you have other ones that are Jewish, but they're kofrim. They're complete heretics. They don't follow, they don't keep Shabbat, they don't keep nothing. So it's all capitalism. It's all money. The reality of it is that in order for us to live good lives, enjoy both this world and the next, it's the basic local Judaism. Nothing more, nothing less.
So you remember that story you told us when you went to Israel last year?
Huh?
You said the place you were, the hospital was across that.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, across the street from in Jerusalem, Rabbi Ephraim lives in a place called Har Nof in Jerusalem, which is a few buildings away from, maybe 3-4 buildings away from where Rav Ovadia Yosef used to live. A few buildings away, but across the street, like you have all these buildings, apartment buildings.
Right.
Across the street, there's a huge fence, and it's a big area that's surrounding this, complex. What is this complex? It's a hospital. It's a mental institution. But what's this mental institution doing in the middle of Jerusalem? I mean, there's plenty of places to put a mental institution in.
Right.
Why over there? Because this mental institution is for people that went crazy from learning Zohar, learning Kabbalah, and they weren't ready for it.
But I thought even to have a sword in your house with you is a blessing and it's changing.
Having a book in your house and learning it are two different things. Again, also learning it and learning it.
Talking about Zohar.
Yeah, learning it. Kabbalah is part of the Zohar.
Yeah.
Learning it, the real Zohar, and learning just a few words, two different things. Most people don't know how to read the Zohar. It's a completely different language. And when you're really dealing with deep Zohar and Kabbalah, it has to do with saying angels' names, God's names. I'll show you a few things. I'll show you guys something that this is.
More than
Don't think that I am Kabbalah anything. This is just something that I learned with Rabbi Ephraim, just to give you an understanding of what it is. Okay, this right here, this page, this is the basic foundation of all Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And it's different names of God.
The 72
The Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Then you spell out the word Yud and then spell out the word Hey and so on. It's the basic level, basic foundation of all Kabbalah.
Based on the 72 names?
Yeah, to some extent, I guess, yes. Now, this is completely illegible, not to me and to anyone else. But if you delve into things like this, and you're not ready, you start saying God's name, and you're not ready to say the certain name, or you start saying one of His angels' names, and your soul is not pure enough to say that name, that angel will hurt you.
Oof.
He'll take it offensively. Who are you to say my name?
Wow.
So the people that went crazy didn't go crazy because it was so amazing that they went to a different world. No, it's punishment. You have to be an ultra pure soul to learn Kabbalah. You have to be ultra pure soul to learn Zohar. It's not for everyone. Yes, there are basic things you can learn from the Zohar, like things that it says, that we even mention in lectures. The things that it says, commentary that it says about Parashat Shavua, commentary that it says about certain halachot, commentary that says about certain things that have to do with day-to-day life. Yes, there are certain things you can learn, and there are certain things that certain rabbis teach.
Very basic stuff.
But it's like very, very basic stuff. Honestly, for anyone that likes mystical stuff, I have a student, his name is Sunny, I think I mentioned him earlier. He loves mystical stuff. And really, if somebody likes the mystical stuff, they don't need to go to the Zohar. Gemara has more mystical stuff than you can imagine. go to the Gemara. If not that, you want something simpler, go to the Midrash. The real commentary behind the scenes of what happened in the Torah. It's called the Midrash. It's huge. It's endless, hundreds of books. It's better than any comic book you'll ever read. All the characters you have from comic books, whether it's the Incredible Hulk, or the people that fly, or the people that ran really fast, all of them are based on characters in the Torah. Matter of fact, a big part of them is the 12 tribes. So people that like mystical stuff, they have it. They have it in a basic level Torah. You don't need to go to a place like the Zohar or the Kabbalah and put your life in risk for something that you're probably not going to understand anyway. And if you understand it, it's a problem. Because if you understand it but you're not ready for it, it could be a problem.
It's a Naphtali, no?
Naphtali was the one that was fast. Yeah.
Levi, it's a jump.
Right. Each one of them was... Yehuda's the Incredible Hulk is similar to him. So there's a lot of amazing teachings that Chazal can that's beyond our understanding.
So, yeah, I really like what that guy's a really good way of explaining, some of these concepts about this, this stuff. And as far as magic goes, it can be traced back to, even to the Egyptians, and I'm sure there's, other cultures and civilizations that
to the very beginning.
It's always been around.
Do you remember when? Do you remember back when like Kabbalah was the big thing, like Madonna and like Ashton Kutcher
stupid.
and co.
Of course,
and all
Hollywood
those guys
mutilates everything, dude. Yeah, of course.
We're following Kabbalah. Yeah, I don't know what made me just think of that, but it was crazy. Yeah, but I mean, any of the mystical religions are going to have this element to them,
Yeah.
The whirling dervishes. This is putting yourself into a trance to access something that is hidden. Literally, the definition of a cult is, that which is hidden. So, like, people go through these things, you recite the names of God, you recite the names of the angels, you kind of put yourself into this state where you can access these things that are normally hidden from you.
Right.
So.
And I will say too, we don't necessarily completely agree on obviously on religious topics and stuff, but I will say that there is a power to the Bible. There is a power to calling on the name of Jesus. I mean, lower dimensional beings, whatever you call them, aliens, demons, whatever they are, when people do that, they leave.
Yeah, it stopped my sleep
Right.
paralysis.
There's a reason they bounce
immediate.
When you say the name of Jesus. I guess it's always been my obsession to connect all these, because I just obsessed with the idea that they have to all be connected in some way. And if I can just figure out the connection, I'll figure out, creation. And I know there's no figuring it out, right? But that's just my obsession, right? Is I like to at least try to, I just want to see it. I want to see what the root is in all of these different ideas on this planet, and see what the commonality is. That was my perception of God, of our Creator, comes from my own experiences. You know what I mean? It doesn't really come from a book or a teaching. I just study books and teachings as a result of my experience to try to gain more wisdom and understanding of creation and also of the other beings that surround me on this planet and their perspective, and why they view the Creator in the way that they do, and why they see things the way that they do, and have the biases that they have. And I don't know, I guess that's kind of where I'm going with it. So Foil, should we go into more Kabbalah and Seraphot, or Fet? Do you say Fet or Fot? Seraphot? Sephiroth. See, leave it to me to mutilate it. Should we go into that first and then open up calls, or should we go ahead and start open? I think people are going to have some intelligent things to say on this topic.
Yeah, however you want to do. If you want to open it up and see,
it's up to you. I'm asking you, friend.
I'm open it up. See if anybody calls in. If we're not getting calls in immediately, Hit it.
Okay. Because there's really a lot to understand about Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. And I mean, just this topic of witchcraft in general, I mean, just as we've gone into in an hour of this show already, there's layers and layers and layers and layers to this that if you haven't really studied it or done research on it, you'd be totally unaware of. I think that's why it's important with no matter what the topic is to kind of, you have your understanding and your interpretation and your opinion, but stay open to receiving new information. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of it out there that's been hidden from us that we, have no knowledge of. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw the numbers on the screen. Go ahead, Foyle.
Yeah. Well, so the guy with the Esoteric channel, he does a video called The Dark Side of Kabbalah. And I mean, really goes into, because just like, this guy is talking about how maybe you call on an angel's name and you're not pure enough to call on it or whatever, then it can be a problem for you. Well, the same writings that he was referring to in that video were taken and can be twisted and manipulated into a much darker context as well. And a lot of stuff, sprang from that. I mean, even to the point where you're moving into, there you'll find references to Kabbalah in the Lesser Key of Solomon. I mean, there's ties through all these things,
Curious Rabbit says, Alara, do you know Tim Albirino? He is a Christian but has the archaeological knowledge to tie to the giants. Very interesting stuff. No, I would you please, you could feel free to DM me on Pilled and send me a link to his stuff. I would love to check it out. I love all that stuff. I love ancient civilizations and religion and philosophy, and it's like stuff I'm completely into. What's going on, Butterfly Beacon? It's good to see you. Glad you got off work in time to join us. Yeah, guys, so if you've got something to add to this conversation, we'd love for you to call in. The numbers are up on the screen at this point. I'm going to go ahead at Foyle, and while we're waiting on people to call, potentially go ahead and play this instructional video on Kabbalah and kind of explain the basics of Kabbalah to people that don't really have much of an understanding of it. So let me start that real quick.
At the center of Kabbalah, and by that I mean an ancient mystic stream of Judaism, not this place in LA. At the center of Kabbalah is a book
not
called
this place in
Zohar,
LA.
which is a book that collects knowledge from even older Jewish mystical works. It looks at verses in the Bible and ideas in Judaism through the lens of the 10 Sfirot. Put simply, each of these Sfirot is a way to interact with an aspect of God. Through these Sfirot, the Zohar created new ways to think about lots of the Bible and really to think about Judaism in general, mystical ways. Now, the Zohar was written in the 13th century in a culture where there was both intellectual curiosity and deep religious fervor. In this culture, this was in northern Spain, on one hand, they were influenced by the teachings of Maimonides, who was a Jewish thinker with a Greek philosophical perspective. So he said, you can't ever know what God does, just what God doesn't do. In other words, you shouldn't ever assume God's actions have a direct effect on you. It's an intellectual way to approach God. And then they were influenced by Christian Europe's religious fervor. God has a direct effect on me. So how can God simultaneously have an effect and not have an effect? Mysticism's answer is there are multiple aspects to God. We can't interact with God, who is unknowable, let's say the Ein Sof, but we can interact with 10 constricted aspects of God, the Sfirot. A small group of people wrote about this in 13th century northern Spain. One was Nachmanides in his interpretations of the Torah, and the other was Moshe de Leon, who collected older texts that formed into the Zohar. These older texts focused on trying to understand some difficult sections in the Bible, like the logic behind creation, or the chariot vision of Ezekiel, the apocalyptic visions of Daniel. Notably, only a small group of scholars read any of the Kabbalistic texts, including the Zohar, as it was generally accepted that studying them might drive you mad. That is, until 250 years later. So, 60 years after the Spanish Inquisition, Isaac Luria in Spot entered the picture. To greatly generalize, at this time, Jews were in a down place. The whole focus of the religion was on living in the past and being sad about where we are now, not in Spain having fun. Luria had this revelatory idea to take the principles of Kabbalism found in the Zohar and evolve them. Instead of it mostly being about understanding the Sfirot, Kabbalism was now about collecting sparks. Luria said the world was originally a perfect vessel, but it was destroyed and it's up to us to collect all of the pieces. Each time we do a good deed, we're collecting these sparks and taking another step towards the Messiah. For instance, the way a person held a Kiddush cup could create a spark, as holding it in a certain way showed off God's name. Lots of traditions Jews do to this day were created by Luria and people that followed him. Kabbalah, Shabbat, for instance. So with Luria, instead of being sad about the past, suddenly Judaism was about looking towards the future and the hope of salvation by the Messiah. And these thoughts were wildly popular. It got people to follow many more traditions, and it significantly spread Kabbalah. It continued to grow until it brought about the Messiah. It brought about someone who...
Okay, I'm going to end that right there. We've got quite a few people in the waiting room at this point, so I'm going to start letting people in and hear their thoughts on this topic. And let's see, we've got 760 coming in first. When you come in, if you could mute the stream and give me a name for you. Hi, 760. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. How are you this evening? Can I have a name?
I'm doing great. It's Russell.
Hi.
Hi, Russell. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Great.
Fantastic.
So I wanted to see what you guys thought about something that kind of connects a lot of what you were talking about. When I started getting into paganism and Satanism research, I got into looking into Nicholas Schreck, who was Zeno LaVey. And something that was really curious to me is how he transitioned from being the head of the werewolf order and being connected to Satanism to now being Buddhist. And the more I looked into it, I saw that, he focused on music and specifically channeling and doing different mantras. And I saw the connection between that with, in Buddhism, they have different beings that are over different things like money or travel and stuff like that. And, from a biblical sense, there's different principalities over things. It seemed like it was possible to maybe have Buddhism as kind of an undercover Satanism. And also it was kind of odd, the connection between music. And then when you go back to the Hebrew side of things, even the name of God, they say is like a type of utterance when you get into the Kabbalah side of things. And so I just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts were on that topic.
Well, music, for one, has for the longest been something that is used to, they can induce almost a trance-like state. I mean, we see this, I'm from New Orleans, voodoo specifically. There's a lot around, the drum beats or in the African religions where they use the music to induce a trance-like state so that they can become the conduit for whatever spirit or energy it is that they're trying to connect with. I mean, music obviously has a huge place in this. I mean, and the same thing with the mantras. It's about, getting into that state of repetition that allows you to kind of lose yourself in the repetition, to open your mind up, again, to the occult, to the things that are unseen. As far as, Buddhism being kind of an undercover Satanism, see, Buddhism has really transformed from what, in my opinion, what the Buddha intended to be. It was a very it's a path, but it wasn't like, it's almost like I don't want to say non-spiritual, but it's a non-theistic thing, right? It's a way of living, but it has been turned into and mixed in with the cultures where it has spread to the point that they have, as you said, there are different things you can call on, different entities that they can call on, that are over top of things, like the principalities in the Bible. But I mean, originally it started off as kind of a non-theistic thing. I mean, the goal was to attain a state of almost nothingness, to empty yourself out. You weren't really concerned about what came after this plane, so to speak. But then as it expanded from its origins, and it started to incorporate elements of the cultures that it was spreading to, it like anything, it shifted to meet the needs of the people in the places of the time. But I mean, as far as like musical element goes, like I said, it's I had mentioned the whirling dervishes earlier. It's something to induce a trance-like state, so that you can attain that almost sense of nothingness. You empty yourself out and you become the vessel.
Right. Music can be used to heal too. I mean, we know that music and frequencies can be used to heal the physical body, and I would imagine aspects of the mind as well. So, this topic can be sort of. So, caller, what are your thoughts on witchcraft? Do you think that there's a benevolent way that it can be used? Do you like the topics that we were going in earlier? Do you think that that on some level everybody's doing it, whether they're aware of it or not, and maybe it comes down to your level of awareness? Do you think it can be used benevolently or no? What are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I'm Christian, and I tend to agree more with Foyle in the sense that I think if it's something good that's going to come from it, it's going to come from tapping into, the one true God that we believe in. But I think that you can be a conduit for a lot of other things as well. And I just thought, kind of specifically related to Nicholas Schreck, it was interesting because early on, you can find one of his YouTube interviews where he's very open about transforming society into a more Satanist-controlled paradigm through music. And he was big into, I think one of his albums was even like something about sex magic. Anyways, with his now practicing of Buddhism and the mantras and chanting and stuff like that, I just thought it was an interesting transition, and was just trying to connect the dots like you were saying earlier. Like, I'm not sure how that stuff comes into play. I was just curious what your thoughts were.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I get what your perspective and what you're saying 100%, Foyle. In my experience, mantras of a positive nature, with very benevolent phrases and I believe intent behind them, help to heal me after a lot of trauma that I went through. They help to heal my mind and balance me and help center me and get me in a completely different state. So though I completely understand what you're saying, and I understand your perspective and the experiences that you've had, that I've used them and I had a very different experience. So, you get what I'm saying?
Do you think the type of channeling that's happening in Buddhism can be used for good? Then you're saying that you believe personally that if your intention is good behind what you're doing during that practice, that something good can come from it, and that just because the entity might be misplaced, that necessarily doesn't make it bad.
I don't know. My thoughts on channeling are very complicated. Like, it's something that I will admit that I toyed with in the past. It's not something I do anymore. I won't criticize other people for doing it. I think some amazing works have come from channeling, like The Law of One. You won't see me really talk about any other channeled books in that way that I talk about The Law of One. And I think largely the reason for that is their spiritual practices when they were doing that were very well documented. The whole process was very well documented, and just the information in that book, you just don't make that up. You can't make that up. So that's why that book is so profound to me. But anyways, where was my mind going with that thought? But personally for me, channeling was not something, once I started to touch it, it was not something I wanted to continue doing. I just felt like maybe my practices weren't good enough to be doing what I was doing, and maybe I was getting some misinformation, even if it was for a minute. If I was getting misinformation, I didn't want to be responsible for then giving that misinforming myself, or then to misinform others, whether I meant to or not. So I wasn't comfortable with it. Now, if other people want to make a different choice and they feel like they're getting a benefit from it and they're helping others, that's fine. But for me, it was something I became uncomfortable with at a point. I was open to it at first, but at a point I became very uncomfortable with it. So, but that's my own personal choice.
I've seen a lot of personal testimony videos of people trying to go into things that seem harmless, like astral projection and things like that, and then coming out the other side with a really dark experience and warning people not to play with it. And I think that there are a lot of influences that might seem harmless, but then go sideways. And, you know, personally, like in Genesis, where Eve was lied to by the serpent about, you know, eating the fruit in the garden and stuff there, what I see is that her first mistake was listening to somebody that wasn't God. And so kind of similar to what Foyle was saying, like I just try to, I think it's best to stay in that channel. But yeah, thanks for your answers.
I appreciate your perspective, and I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too.
Remove. Great call. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let iPhone in. I love it when they don't have names. But that's, I mean, it probably works out better for them. All right, so, hello, iPhone. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. I can see that your audio is still connecting, so can I get, well, I won't say it again. You probably heard it. Can I get a name for you?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm Tanya Broman.
Hi, Tanya. Welcome to the couch.
Yes, thanks for calling.
This is such an interesting subject. I really like it. And I'm so glad you girls are on, even though Foyle's working so hard and can't get away.
I'm here. I'm here for you.
She's here tonight.
I had a strange experience with my husband when we were back in the day when we were dating. And it was we were out on a back road, you know, things happen. Right. Anyways, we got creeped out and we were on our way back, and I don't know if it was a UFO experience. I don't know if, because I was pissed at him and I was probably not very happy. I don't know if I brought something in or something, but it was a very strange and not a fun experience. And I was scared to death for a long time. And I actually talked to a psychic, and she told me to say, in the name of Jesus Christ, be gone. And I used to do that, and it whatever it was, because it felt like whatever it was hanging on.
And this was associated with a spaceship experience, with you seeing a UFO?
I saw lights bouncing off all I remember is I saw lights bouncing off the hood. He said he looked at me and I looked like a strange ghost. That's all either one of us remember from the whole experience. Other than the creepy feeling, our horn was beeping on its own. Like it was just like, it was very, very weird. And we ran into my mother's house, and he grabbed a knife, and we made my mom stay up all night with us because we were scared.
It does sound scary.
I just think that I'm always afraid that if because I have studied other religions, and I feel like, for me, like the last caller was saying, I don't want to invite something in that isn't supposed to be there.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. I totally understand people with, like, you can see with me, I'm very open-minded, but at the same time, you see, I still have a very healthy fear of you know, letting anything unwanted in that could take over my field in any way, shape, or form. So
yeah, buddy.
because I realize the spirit world is very, very real. All of this stuff is very, very, very real, and you know, and I'm acutely aware of that. So,
right,
yeah.
and also I work. Actually, I'm a recovery coach. I work with people with drug and alcohol problems, and a lot part of that has to do with like it's a physical, mental, and spiritual thing. And so I do a spiritual class that's kind of, they can take it if they want. It's not required or anything. And I get a lot of spiritual questions because a lot of people aren't really anywhere with their spirituality. And I talk a lot about, you know, I have my own beliefs, but those are mine. And I talk a lot about, you know, there's order to the universe. And when we're doing the right things, things seem to fall into place. So, you know, whatever's out there is loving. And, you know, and we can call it creator till we figure out what it is for ourselves. And I mean, because I believe God created everything, but also that, you know, the plants and the animal, like, I know that with, you were talking about witches and Wiccan, and with the plants and all that, I think a lot of people back in the day were criticized for being witches for doing healing on people and doing, you know, this kind of holistic medicine with people. And I think we're getting back to that, actually, where they're going to burn people for trying to fix themselves.
That is kind of crazy, right?
100%.
Really crazy.
It's like I like what J Bell said in the chat earlier too. Along those lines, she said that, you know, there's spiritual. I talk about this all the time. There's spiritual technology. They want us to go the unnatural AI route when, through seeking the creator, there's spiritual. You get these abilities, and this is what happens where you don't really need their technology, because you get these really advanced spiritual abilities that you know. And that's kept from us. We're not taught about that. We're not even taught that there's a creator, you know. They leave us to wonder. In fact, they push more scientism and atheism on us than anything else. So
yeah, anything that's not religious or spiritual at all is what they want you to find. They don't want you to have any kind of spirituality, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I know from working in the field that I do, a lot of people, they're just not, a lot of times they're stuck, and they want to believe in something and they don't know how to, or whatever. And the way people are raised today, it's like just pure atheists.
Right.
Everything is atheism.
Right.
And
it's like we're taught that, but we instinctually know that. Right. We know that there's a creator, or we wouldn't seek out the religions the way that we do. You know what I mean? And try to study them and try to figure out what we resonate with, and what our belief system is going to be, or, you know what I mean? A lot of it, people are raised with that. It's handed down, but a lot of people, like with me, I mean, I was raised, you know, there was, of course, a religious ideology in my household, but I sort of went out at a young age before I really knew that we had a creator, and I kind of sought out different religions trying to figure out, well, you know, it didn't make sense to me that there was no creator to all this, that it was too intelligent. I knew there was a creator, so I was trying to figure out, well, which is the right one? Which person's got the right creator, you know? So that was kind of my line of thinking.
Yeah, I think our natural inclination is to think that we feel that there's something else. You have to work to be an atheist. You have to work to be an aspiritualist. You have to conscientiously put those ideas out of your head, because I believe, you know, the Bible says it's written on your heart, you know, and I think that holds true. You have to actually put work into not believing things. Absolutely. You know, you would think it would be the other way around. Like you have to, you know, but you don't have to convince yourself, you know, of the higher planes. Most of the time you feel it, but you have to convince yourself that there's nothing, you know, in my opinion.
Right. I know that for me, when I look at other like some of the metaphysical stuff, some of the other stuff, I still believe it, because I'm a Christian. I believe in God, but I also believe there's such an order to the universe that makes even like the stars and all this other stuff all works in tandem because of the order of the universe. And I believe some of the, like, yes, the earth has power. I don't talk to the earth. I talk to God, like Foyle was saying. I would thank God for whatever, but it's all orderly. It all works together so perfectly, even
Right.
as messed up as we are and the earth is right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
for
just
sure.
too much beauty, too much of a design. It's too perfect, and it all works together. It's just, and it's such a mystery. There's so much to us to still remain so mysterious and unknown to us, and we're just like little babies, just beginning to learn the true nature of reality. It's really kind of exciting times. I think the Great Awakening is fascinating. Thank you so
It
much.
sure
What was
is.
your name? What was your name again?
Tanya.
Tanya. Thank you so much for your call, Tanya, and your insight. Really appreciate it. I've got 3 people left in the waiting room that I got to try to get in before we close. But thank you for your call. I love it when people
Yeah,
call for the
much-
first time. Thank you.
Yeah, much love to
Bye.
you.
Much
right.
love.
Bye. Have a wonderful evening. All right, so I'm gonna let in Curtis. Well, she let herself. I never know if they're gonna make it out on their own or not. Looks like I lost you. I don't know if you left. Oh, you were gonna call, but you'd rather listen. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna let in Curtis, then Michael, and I'll go to Zoom user if you're not gonna call in. It looks like I lost a couple people in the waiting process. There comes Curtis. Hello, Curtis. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. Your audio's still connecting. It looks cold where he's at.
I
Doesn't it?
was just thinking that.
Right?
Like,
He looks
ooh.
like he's outside in Antarctica. Are you calling us from Antarctica,
Right?
man? Woohoo! Finally getting a call from Antarctica. Your audio's...
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you hit the right button when you come in? Do you remember which audio settings the one you hit, Foyle?
It asked
Connect
join
with
audio.
computer.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there we
There
go.
we
Welcome
go.
to the couch, Curtis. How are you tonight? Oh.
Oh,
We have
maybe
no
not.
sound. Oh. Sorry, guys. No sound. Thank you,
He's
Dew, for the
trying.
1,000 gold pills. Really appreciate you. Love you both. Jumped out. All right, Dew. Have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, and
Thanks for joining
thank
us.
you, Do, for the 267 gold pills, and thank you, I am Bean Pole, for the cookie.
Did I
Much
miss
love to
any
you.
other gold pills?
Yeah,
or
those.
cookies?
I think those were the. I don't think we
No,
missed
it
any
looks
more.
like
I
we've
think
got
that's
I am bearable. I am bearable with the cookie. Many are unaware of using our innate capability and how we are used by the unseen. Totally true, right? Like, it horrifies me to think about the time when I was unaware of this stuff, and I was just susceptible to all kinds of stuff. It totally horrifies me to think about that now. Let me see if I missed anybody else.
Thumper Rose is saying
thank
star
you.
six. Oh, there you go.
Curtis.
Hello.
All right,
Hello.
we finally got you.
Yeah, operator error. Nobody's surprised.
No worries. No worries.
You're good to go.
Are you
How do I get
outside?
that?
Is it freezing?
Right?
Where you're at?
It is. It's I don't know. I've gotten very acclimated to it. How do I get back to the screen? Hold on a second here.
You just click there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes. Yes, I'm in my porch apartment.
Look at that.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So what are
mean,
your thoughts
it's an-
on magic and all this sort of stuff we've been getting into tonight?
I think that it's been said very well so thus far. I think that it is very much real in the sense of what can be done in terms of, I hate the word, but manipulation or utilization of energies or whatever. And I think that you have to be aware of the fact that just because you reach a higher level of consciousness does not mean that everyone around you does. And that was one of the hardest things for me to understand, because like as I was moving up in this understanding, you know what I mean, and other people were coming in my life, you kind of were like, oh, well, they should be like the same understanding too in terms of what, you know, not to do to someone or whatever, you know, and it's just not the case. And that leads to a lot of disappointment and confusion. And I think that as long as you can keep that in your mind, that like not everyone is on the same word that you are. They might be on the same page, but you're not necessarily on the same word. But I think that, Alara, what you had said about you have a healthy fear, I think that you shouldn't call it a healthy fear. I think you should call it an awareness, because there's definitely nothing to be scared of, I think.
Good word.
Because words do hold power.
No, you're absolutely right. That's a very much better choice of wording than I came up with. Sometimes I'm terrible with my choice of words, but continue. I agree.
Unfortunately, I've become, not unfortunately, but I'm hyper aware of words and their usage, just because that's our means of communication. I mean, don't get me wrong, I believe in telepathy. I talk on the channel constantly, but that doesn't mean that I take what I get from there to heart, you know, unless we're physically talking about it. You can only take that shit with a grain of salt, excuse the language. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think everyone should just, like, it doesn't matter what you're studying or whatever, just to do it just like that. Study, don't, you know what I mean? Just keep your mind open and just be aware, but never be fearful of it, because then you're opening the door for those kind of reactions to it, you know, like, and it's intent. And yeah, I think that it's a shame that there's such a division between like everything, because ultimately we're all talking about the same thing. Ultimately we're all like looking for the same thing, like we're just using different words, and nobody is patient enough, it feels like, or empathetic enough, I don't know, to just sit and talk, to be able to realize, oh shit, we're talking about the same thing. Like, and I think that once people get to that point where, like you were saying at the beginning, where we just converse, you know what I mean, on just a neutral plane, and I think a lot of things would change. I think that if people could truly implement neutral perspective in their life, like, it would change everything. It allows you to just absorb it for what it is.
Absolutely.
Like many paths, same mountain type thing.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
That's what we've hoped to facilitate on this show, because Foyle and I are like night and day with the way that we see certain things, right? But that's what I think the beauty of us working together is, and that's the kind of conversations that we facilitate on this channel and on these shows, is because people feel like they can talk here in an open sense about topics normally that people tend to get triggered about. Like, you have to see it I don't have to see it your way to be your friend and to have a conversation. Having these conversations where I share my ideas and experiences and you share yours is how we start to arrive at some level of truth, or
commonality.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's the staying neutral thing. Like, I really try to practice that, and I have my biases just like everybody else, but I really try to practice that staying neutral, and at least not judging somebody for their experience and their perspective, and you know what I mean, like not judging it. Like, it's not mine, but I'm not judging you for where you're at. How can we understand each other further and see what we're talking about is the same, right? So that's kind of ties in what you were saying, Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big thing about the neutrality thing also is that whole law of attraction thing, and that your thoughts do create manifestations. Like, the reflection, what we experience is a reflection. Like, so like to be able to be hyper aware of your own biases, and you know what I mean, and not castrate yourself for it. You know what I mean? Just be aware of like, oh wait, that was a little bit more on the negative side than I want the result to be. So let me put that in check. Like, and if you keep everything in neutral, then no matter if you think that there is or isn't a force working against you, if you stay neutral, they have nothing to work on you for. I mean, there's no ammunition for them. You know what I mean? It's that when you have that repetitive thought of fear and doubt, you know what I mean, that's what gets manifested and multiplied in your life and makes it feel like it's real.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Great insights, Curtis. I really appreciate your call. You're just, how old are you?
Thank you. 31. I know I'm good for my age, right?
How long have you been, like you said, awake and sort of aware and trying to practice neutrality and observation?
Well, So it was 2016 when actually foil. It was like a thing where I was. It was my grandmother who had passed that all of a sudden had reached out to me. Like I came out to the car and it had the word "get out" written all over it. Okay, I mean it was a freaky experience, but it was like really exciting at the same time. But so like my path has gone everywhere because I didn't have that understanding of be careful what you know what I mean? Like I've never had anyone to just say, hey, stay neutral, you know what I mean? And I, as a Scorpio, just get really amplified directions.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah, but the neutrality thing and like understanding, like truly understanding how imperative it is to just keep that level playing just in terms of your own sanity, that revelation and its implementation hasn't really, it's been probably the past year that's been hardcore.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow, you sound like you've been alert and aware a lot longer than that. Yeah, great.
Like I said, I go into things hardcore, and so you get to experience a lot of things really quickly, and it's kind of like a sink or swim situation. Like,
Ain't that
you better figure out your opinion.
Yeah, I know all about that.
That is too true, right?
Yeah.
Too true.
Yeah.
Well,
even with the UFO thing, it's the same, you know? Like, it's all just, it's perspective, and it's just how we interpret it. We just need to be respectful of each other and that we all interpret things differently.
Absolutely. Well, Curtis,
Thanks
thank
for
you
letting me
so
call,
much
guys.
for your
great
call and your
call.
insight. Call back anytime. It was
Awesome.
nice to meet you.
You guys are amazing, by the way. I think this is great.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I speak for
Much
Foil
love
when
to
I say
ya.
we appreciate that.
Yes,
Have a
indeed.
wonderful evening, Curtis. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to let Michael David in and then the last caller, and then we'll go ahead and close the show for the night, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for staying up with us, peeps.
Yeah, this is cool. I like both. I like the daytime shows and I like the midnight
I'm
shows
a
are a
fan
different
of
thing.
The
They're cool.
midnight, you know, the midnight
The midnight
shift.
couch. This is a perfect topic for the midnight couch.
Right.
Michael, David, your audio is still connecting. Hopefully it'll connect here in a second. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. You know how we get down over here. Over around here. Around here. Oh, here we go again with this audio connecting issue. Good night, Tanette. I saw you were in the waiting room earlier. I'm assuming the hubby called or something and you had to go to bed. Sorry you couldn't join us. All right. Michael is still having problems connecting to audio. Foil, are you frozen? Did I lose you? Oh no. Here come the Archons. Oh, she's back.
I was just going to say that. And the Archon action.
Yep, here they come, right?
Right. I knew it would come back. That's
that
all
was
right.
a trip that thing came out. That right? What were we talking about when that happened? That was wild.
Wicca, I think.
Michael, why don't you try logging out and logging back in and make sure you choose computer audio. I'm not sure what the issue is on your end. Why it's not
I think
connecting.
you could try *6. Somebody said.
*6.
Maybe.
I probably ought to learn that since we have a regular call-in show. I probably ought to learn the tricks.
I'm clueless, dude. I don't know. Somebody in the chat.
I think he's
said
connected. I think
look
Michael's
at that.
connected now. Welcome to the couch.
Hello.
Good evening. Oh, we still have no sound.
Maybe.
Now we got no picture.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Right.
All right, Michael, pull it together. You can't hear me? All right. Can you read lips?
Maybe
Will?
you want to. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe let him try and call back in.
Sure, try logging out and calling back in. We'll let you right back in if you call back. Because I can't read lips at all.
Yeah, we suck at that.
Yeah, it's definitely not my forte. So
Right?
I'm going to throw you
Not in
out,
my
Michael. Try to
wheelhouse.
call back. All right, how do I remove? Okay, there we go. And it's so nifty tonight. Everybody knew how to let themselves out. I didn't even have to remove people.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
So smooth. Zoom
Right.
user, welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. Can we get a first name for you after
let's
your audio?
Try logging out, calling back in.
Make sure and mute the stream in the background.
There we go.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Can I get a name for you?
I am Brad. How are you?
Hi,
Brad.
Brad. Thanks for calling.
First time.
Welcome to the couch. All right.
Fantastic.
We love first-time callers. This is fantastic. What
Right.
What do you have to say about the topic of witchcraft and all the things we've been discussing? It's been kind of all over the place.
That witchcraft, well, it was started about 6,000 years ago. That's what started us off.
Okay.
Witchcraft. We all were tricked.
Mm-hmm.
All civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Tricked by.
Well, we had certain things given to us that was taken away. Tells you that in the Bible. And by the way, when I
Like telepathy?
Yes, for one.
Or do you mean the fallen angels teaching things to the different civilizations that they weren't supposed to be teaching?
That's another thing. And also there was technology that was that we should have had 6,000 years ago. What's going on the planet right now? You're dealing with a 6,000-year-old satanic death cult.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
They're reptilians, Dracos, gray aliens.
Yep.
Whatever you call it. And by the way, I never read the Bible in my life, to let you know.
Okay.
And there's a gentleman that woke up a few years ago that could read the hieroglyphs around the world like the back of his hand. It tells you that in the Bible, at the last days. This gentleman is on YouTube everywhere. His name is Eric Briggs.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a channel called Angry Catfish Briggs. He blows glass.
Okay.
And that gentleman, if you want to know anything about the history, that gentleman was touched by the Creator, the same as I have. See, I can't. I don't.
Did you just say
Very
touched
good.
by the Creator?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
He was talked about in the Bible. See, what they don't want to tell you tells you right in the Bible, all men were created equal. You know what that meant?
By all
Please
means,
elaborate.
share.
Do you know your purpose in life? Do you know why you're put on this planet?
Why?
We're placed on this planet as a test to prepare for heaven. So if you lie, cheat, and steal, murder in your vertical meat suit, then you failed. See,
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
everything in life has consequences. See, what you're dealing with right now is good versus evil. See, told us that when he said all men were created equal. Well, the moment the sperm enters the egg, there's a light, a flash,
That is true.
brighter than the sun. When that happens, that's when life starts. And also, you're given something from God. Everything, right down to every cell in your body, has it. He gave you a magnet. It's your heart. That's why when you could walk in a room and you could tell somebody is angry from across the room, that's because your magnet is telling you their vibration, their frequency is off, and they mean harm. See, that's a third dimensional frequency or vibration they're picking up on. And for you to get up to the higher frequency, fifth dimension, what you have to do is quite simple. You got to give your moral compass a check.
Use your heart, love others.
Heart.
Follow
And
your
see,
heart
most,
instead of your mind. Yeah.
I'm going to spook a lot of people here right now. 90% of the people who prays to God is praying to a sun god, Moloch, as we speak. Because 200 AD, a Bible lover named Constantine changed the Bible. See, there's supposed to be 77 books of the Bible. Some say 88 because 77 and 88 are God's numbers, 7 and 8. See, there's another guy called Negative 48. You can find him around. See, he knows a lot about gematria. Actually, he knows everything about gematria. This guy could tell you that it's mathematically impossible in every way from May to Sunday that what's coming right here is the second coming of Christ right away, but we're going to have a special friend for the first time in human history. We're going to see the Creator for the first time because of what's been done on this earth with the children. See,
interesting.
When you touch God's children and drink their blood, sacrifice it, there's repercussions coming. You could see it all over the world. There's earthquakes everywhere around the world. You go look at it. There's God's army going down and taking out the tunnels. And then coming behind them, flooding them. Go look. See, the moon is waxing and waning, which means it's turning 180 degrees every 12 hours in our nights and nobody's noticing it. See, tribulation stopped. We're coming up to the 1 year anniversary now of Revelation started.
Well, I definitely think we're in the end time, sir. I would agree with that for sure. But,
100.
That's just my personal opinion. Things are definitely getting kind of crazy around here. That's
not what you think, though. The end times are not for you or me, my daughter. Told you in the Bible, when God shows up, he's not coming for you or me. He's coming for the ones who did this to us. Our governments, our medicals, our TVs, that brainwashed us through MK Ultra, many others.
Yeah, but how? Let me throw something in. How responsible are we, though, for putting our head in the sand and not paying attention to what was going on? Because this has always been going on. But we allowed it. I have to wonder how much, yes, they did this to us. Yes, they did this to the children. But how guilty are we for not seeing it, for not taking a stand, for being like ostriches and having our head in the sand and not even, get what I'm saying?
See, when you take your priorities in your life and you take those priorities and put them on the back burner, and you're going to have a problem. You got to remember a couple things here. I'm 51. When you take your history and God out of school, history repeats itself. What you're witnessing right now was an attempt to take over the whole world through the United States. I could tell you a lot. Oh, I'm from Canada, by the way. And yeah, oh, I could go on for hours and hours, all fact. And by the way, I don't use computer.
That's probably a good thing.
Probably a good thing, right?
I use it to do this and share information and collect information, and then that's it. Really, I don't use the smartphone is what I stay away from.
But not when I talk, not when I can't. I just got to focus on talk only. I can't look at anything when I'm talking.
Well, your perspective is definitely very interesting. I really found a lot of the things that you said very fascinating. You speak a lot of truth.
You go to this guy, Eric Briggs. Mm-hmm. Look at it. He got about 200. He read everything. And not only this, he was a private investigator for a sitting senator in Georgia. He was warning about what's happening now. We live in a three-sun system. Mm-hmm. What's coming behind us is rock. It's called a blue Kachina. If you go to NASA right now and use their own science and look at it, their Earth's long hair should be going straight back. It's not. It's coming to a V shape. What did that tell you? That tells you there's a planet behind us. And the reason why you can't see it is because a different light spectrum. Mm-hmm. You got to remember, the sun we had was a radiant sun. It burnt you everything. The one that's coming is a black sun. You can't, or a blue sun is a black light sun. So our light spectrum can't see it until our sun dims a little, and it will happen very soon here. But everything will be fine.
So where do you get your understanding of our Creator and of God from? You said you haven't read the Bible, so where do you get your understanding of God and your knowledge and your wisdom? Where would you say you get that from?
Take religion out.
Take religion out? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Religion is a divider. That's what it was meant to.
Right.
It was put there as a divider for control, to keep us slaves. We were always a slave, everybody. We're always pitted, one side against the other.
Right.
Always. See, you take religion out. You go back to your basics. What do you need in life? Food, water, shelter, clothing. Everything else is material. Mm-hmm. Tells you in the Bible your vanity is going to bring you down, just like these people that's been ruling our countries for years. See, their symbolism is going to bring them down. See, when you got a pope that's worshiping Satan in the basement,
right?
And then they got a building that looks like a serpent. See, a lot of people should go and look at the OrionLine.org. They might get a big wake-up call. You'll also, if you look up Executive Order 13818, that comes into play right now as we speak. Because what you're witnessing, ladies, is the biggest sting in human history against the biggest crime syndicate in human history. And when it unfolds, it's going to be the writing on the wall moment in history, according to the Bible. Because when you find out about it, and it's coming, all justice will have taken place or about to be taken place.
Do you see it as more of a transformation, or do you see it as
100.
God coming back to get vengeance?
Go ahead.
Do you see it as more of a transformation, or God coming back to get vengeance on the evil people who have perpetrated these crimes?
I think it's all the above.
It's all the above.
I think he's coming here to straighten it out and say, hey, because they do have a final showdown. God won. We've already won. We're just waiting for the media to start showing the truth.
Right. Well, I really... Go ahead.
I could go hours.
No, just if you could... I'm going to go ahead and begin to close out now. If you have any final thoughts, if you want to throw those in.
Well, ladies, the key is your good karma will come to help you shortly. And those that didn't have the good karma, well, you better start getting some.
Shit out of luck, man. Sucks to be
Because-
them.
No, be happy. This is what the whole point of everything is.
Yeah.
You look at what Donald Trump done with the Abraham Accords and everything from the Middle East. This is all biblical. I could even tell you the story if you want, right down to how we went around to each country and made them all submit to him. Every country he went to and what he had on him. Say, Executive Order 13818. Anyone who shagged around with the U.S. election is under, U.S. control. And anyone's property or any money that's made from it will be seized. And there's a lot more to it.
Well, thank you so much for your insights and so much for your call.
Yes.
We appreciate it. You have
Thank you, lady.
You have a
Yeah,
fantastic
much love to
evening.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thanks for calling.
All right. Later. Bye-bye.
Absolutely fascinating phone calls tonight and conversation.
Yeah,
Well,
good calls
this-
tonight.
I would have thought, and it didn't go, it's amazing too, is we tried to cover so many different, I saw with the general direction we were trying to go, but it kind of branched off, but it actually turned into kind of a fascinating discussion and went different directions. I don't know, it was great. I think this was fun. It's a great show. I really enjoyed it, is what I'm saying. I really enjoyed our midnight witchcraft show.
Midnight shift. Right.
So, yeah.
all about it.
I'm not sure exactly what we'll go into next time, but I don't think really it's as hard to plan. We'll just sort of continue maybe with demonology and some of these other aspects of magic and further dive into that topic. Maybe go into the Lesser Key of Solomon and Enochian and I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
Voodoo?
buddy.
Something like that.
Voodoo.
Yeah,
something.
we'll put it together. It'll be on the thing. So it'll be on the thing. That was really
You
deep,
know
wasn't
the
it?
thing.
Right? The thing, right?
The thing.
Blonde hairs. They turn what in the sun? What do they turn in the sun?
Yeah,
What do say?
they rub the legs and
Rub the
the hairs
legs
turn blonde in the
and
sun, right?
Yeah, and they turn
You know,
blonde
the
in
thing.
the sun.
Yeah.
The thing. Corn Pop was a bad dude, guys.
He was learned about cockroaches, right?
Yep. And kids
All that.
dancing on my lap. Right.
He loves kids sitting on his lap.
Oh, was it
geez.
kids sitting on his lap? I thought it was.
Yeah, he
I
says,
forgot.
I love kids. That's what he says. I love kids sitting on my lap.
Good night, Zena. Thank you for being here. She said something earlier I thought was interesting. What was it? Oh, I don't know if I can find it now. Oh, relationship. God in us. I have to agree with you. God in us. I thought she said God is us. My bad. Oh well. Same basic idea. So on that note, guys, it's been a great show. Had
Lemon
lots of
scratching.
fun. Oh, lemons and scratching. See, what can I
Lemons
do
and
with that foil?
scratchings.
I'm so absent-minded. All right, so let me get the lemons up out of here
Right.
for
and
everybody.
Thanks, Sonia Roman, for the super chat. Good night to you. Yeah, thanks for staying up with us here on the midnight shift, guys.
The midnight shift.
And you know, right, we will be back tomorrow with Space Force news. You don't want to miss that at the regular time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Definitely come hang out with us for that.
Okay, so Lemons just went out over on D Live. I am handling the scratching situation right now. Your scratching is about to go off. Big thank you
Rainbow Snuggle Fritz.
Big thank you to all the mods for your help, and thank you for the people that supported us tonight and threw pills and super chats our way. We really
we love it. Thank you.
Super appreciate it. Thank you. And on that note, I think we will see everybody tomorrow night for Space Force News. And so the Conspiracy Couch is going to be on Saturday nights at midnight for a little while till Foyle finishes her Monday job. And you know, but I will always make posts on Telegram like I normally do, Alara of Sirius channel. And I try to get them out on other platforms. I'm really good at getting it out on Facebook and Gab, but not much else other than that. So, on that note, everybody have a wonderful evening. Any last closing thoughts or upcoming shows you need to let everybody know about, Foyle?
Man, I don't have time to stream on my channel right now, but I will be back at some point. We just don't know when.
All right, you guys. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Much love.